Welcome back to Movie Magic Reviews, brought to you by MegaDads. I'm Antonio, and I'm joined today by my best buddy Clay. And today we're talking about the new film Trap. We're going to let you know if it's worth seeing, if it's worth your time, if it's worth your money. Really quick before we begin, reminder, we start talking about this movie spoiler free. We don't want to ruin it for you. Only at the very end, after we warn you, we will talk some spoilers about the things that you just got to talk about once you left the movie. So let's get right into it. I will start really quick with our synopsis. Trap, written and directed by none other than M. Night Shyamalan, starring Josh Hartnett, Ariel Donahue, and Salika Shyamalan, interestingly. Going right into our little synopsis here. These are always terrible, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. A father and his teen daughter attend a pop concert only to realize they've entered the center of a dark and sinister event. These IMDb synopsis are probably the worst, but anyway.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just gonna go right into it. This movie isn't worth seeing. I'm gonna tear
Wow.
this movie to shreds. I haven't felt this guttural about a movie that because we've reviewed some twos now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we've reviewed some 2 out of 5 star movies. Are you an M. Night Shyamalan fan? What'd you think going in, Clay?
Yeah, so going into this, the trailer had me interested. I think a lot of
100%.
people I think a lot of people would
100%.
agree with that. Like I think the premise was interesting enough that it kind of pulls you in.
Yep.
I've enjoyed some M. Night Shyamalan. I've not enjoyed some M. Night Shyamalan. Loved a lot of his earlier stuff. Um and then probably the last movie of his that I liked was The Beach. I thought that was cool. I think that's what it's called.
I
Have you
think it
seen
was
that one?
called Old.
Well, that's a worse name than The Beach.
You know what? This is
Isn't
worth
it?
going into. So let's hit it really quick, starting with his debut
It is
2004.
called Old. What a bad name.
Yeah. Or sorry, it goes back further than that. He has producer credits on a
No,
1992
we don't need to do
movie
those.
called Praying with Anger. Then we have Unbreakable in 2000, Signs, which was great, The
Yep, love it.
Village,
Village
Lady
is
in the
great.
Water, The
Okay,
Happening, The Last Airbender, Devil, that elevator movie,
never saw
After
it.
Earth, producer credit on that,
Oh,
The Visit, producer credit on that, Wayward Pines, executive producer in the TV series, people like that, Split, good,
yeah, great,
Glass,
great movie.
and then there was the movie called Old, which is about people aging on the beach. Knock at the Cabin, which I wanted to see but
Oh,
didn't.
I saw that.
That
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
producer credit in 2023. Servant, executive producer on that. That's a TV series. Did not catch it. Ran from 2019 to 2023. The Watchers, which was 2024, producer credit on that. That was when they're like in the forest and like they get abducted and like some strange entities like watch people. And then finally we have Trapped. So this I like M. Night Shyamalan. I like some of the previous movies. I wish I would have seen Knock at the Cabin, for instance,
Mm,
that he has producer credit on, but I'm a fan. And I wanted to get hooked in on this. I would like you was enticed by the premise. And I think that leads to my first con is that this thing is wafer thin. And if you watch the trailer, you kind of get the synopsis. Like not too much surprising happens. And I think M. Night Shyamalan is known for like twists and like surprises. And oh, I can't believe you were hinting at that the whole time. And quite honestly, I didn't get any of that here. So my big con is probably the plot was just not interesting and super thin. So that's what I'll say about it. How about you? Give me a pro or con.
yeah. So I think the biggest pro is Josh Hartnett in this.
Agree.
Uh,
100%.
Fantastic performance from him. Uh, really did a good job. Especially on the front end, like on the
Yeah.
back end, he changes it up a little bit, and it was still good. But you couldn't help but want to root for him, even
Hmm.
though based off the trailer, it looks they're looking for him, and so but it's kind of this interesting main character is protagonist and the antagonist at the same time, and so I thought he did a great job. I liked him in Oppenheimer. Like I remember seeing that with him in it and being like, oh, that's cool. He's acting again. Like it kind of been a while, I think. And so the fact that he did this, I was like, oh, this is cool that he like gets an actual movie where he kind of gets most of the screen time. I will say, then switching from that, I felt like most of the people that he was acting up against weren't as good. Uh, Especially M. Night Shyamalan's daughter,
Is that his
Salika.
daughter? Okay, because in the movie they like hint at this, that this is like his relative, like in the
Right.
movie, and that's interesting. So he debuts his daughter as a lead,
Yeah, which
in the movie.
that thing that I also just have some issues with. Like I get that she identifies as like a singer and she's trying to become a famous singer, but that
I
this
like the music in the movie.
it wasn't bad, but it felt a little like forced. Like here's my daughter like really trying to like show you that she can do this whole thing, and so it was just a little
It's
weird.
odd. The nepotism, I get
Right. And
it.
then and there
Yeah.
was just a lot of moments where it was like I appreciated how well they did with the concert, so it felt real. Like it felt like a Taylor Swift show or something, as far as like there was like scene changes and background dancers and different outfits and stuff. So like they did a really good job fleshing all of that out. But there would just be parts where it was like for like 2 minutes where it would
Yes.
just be a lot of her singing, and then like
Yes.
the daughter came out on stage. That whole scene just took forever, and I wanted some of the other stuff that was happening in the like with the manhunt to start taking place, but we're just like it felt like it focused a little too much on um just the concert. And I get that they're trying to build it so it feels like a real concert, but I just felt like they could have focused a little less on that. And then toward the end, you don't just see her performing from stage. She also has like written lines for her.
Yep.
And I don't know, did you think she did a good job? th-
Well,
in the
first of all, I
beginning I
agree with
didn't.
you. Josh Hartnett did really great. He was the only really interesting part. Obviously, like the movie's really centered around him. I I felt like even when watching that every other person except for one of the people who are pursuing Josh Hartnett, which I guess I won't spoil since there's not too much to spoil, did poorly. I didn't believe the daughter. I'm like, you're trying to act like a kid, and I guess you're pulling it off because you are, but it was just like none of it felt authentic to me. There's a concession stand guy who was like pretty much the second most authentic person like
Yeah,
in the whole
that's
in
fair.
the whole film who's in the trailer,
Fair.
and that's it. Like I was pretty disappointed all around. Even on the beat, think about like the people who you see in the movie, just cops standing around and stuff. I didn't even think they sold it very much. I'm like, this is awkward. It was just any other person on screen, I felt like it was a B movie, and it should have been at a higher caliber. The thing I wanted to bring up to you, and I will give the movie one more pro, is that it's supposed to be like a thriller, right? And some of the cinematography that they do, the shots, the angles, it works. For a
Mm,
while, I was half convinced that this movie was going to be good. Halfway through, I was like, man, they are building, is what I kept thinking, is
right.
they are building towards something happening, or things are going to happen when you least expect it. And because of the shots and because of like Hitchcock was really famous for this type of thing where you just have a shot that makes it uncomfortable for the audience. And they do that a lot. And I was uncomfortable a lot. But what I wasn't, so that was my pro. My con is not much happens in the movie, and it was very boring overall. Very low count of thriller moments. It had some, but not enough. So for me, I'm just like bored most of the movie, quite honestly. So
So the shot you're talking about that was building the intensity, is that when they would the actors would literally like talk right into the camera
yeah, well,
on a
that's a good
real.
one. Yeah, like Silence of the Lambs had some really good shots like that where the focus is like on the pupils of like the character in front of them. But there were others, like just like what's going on in the background, like is the character off center in the screen? Like, am I supposed to be looking at something? There are so many weird slow shots in this film where it's like, is this going to be important later? And I kept asking myself that, why is this happening? Why are they showing us this? And I quite honestly think in the end, the answer was just to add to the runtime. I would say half of the shots in the movie are too long for what they are at any point. Pick any shot. And it's just like, what are we? I'm like, are you just trying to waste time? The second half of the movie picks up in a lot of ways. Like things start happening faster. But like the first half especially was notorious for, like you were saying, let's show his daughter on stage, let's show some of the concert, but they showed a lot of the concert. Like you're supposed to be watching it, I guess, with them, and it's supposed to be interesting, which it really isn't. I mean, it's not all that. So I don't know. And any other pros or cons that you could think of in walking away from the movie? I was upset that I saw the movie when I left, which I think is what differentiates this movie from the other ones like Twister and from Day One or The Quiet Place Day One. I felt like my time was kind of wasted. Not that there wasn't some cool stuff to see, but net honestly wasted time for me. Sorry, it just not enough happened in the movie.
I mean, you mentioned this too, like toward the end it started ramping up a little bit in the intensity, and I could feel the intensity like in my body, which is kind of the feeling I get when I watch these like suspense movies where you're not sure what's
Mhm.
happening and they're trying to build on that suspense and you just kind of feel yourself kind of tightening up. And so I did feel that. And so I was like, well, that, like, he accomplished that, which
Yeah.
is part of it, and so
If they
there
would have
was.
had those moments, because they're there, if they would have had like 3 times, like give me like triple that, I probably would have walked away with saying like, man, they did some good stuff, and it just wasn't enough. It was so sparse. When it happened, it was good. I was like, oh my God. But it was a long movie for that, for the amount that they had in there,
Yeah,
for the amount of thrill.
I
Low
guess
thrill count.
the last thing I'll say is most people expected there to be a twist. I don't really feel like there was one. I don't think that's a spoiler, but I just wouldn't go in expecting some big thing to happen
Yeah.
toward the end. Like, kind of what you see in the trailer is kind of what you get. And
Yeah.
if you're okay
Hmm.
with that, like, I think the premise is great. I thought it was a
Yeah.
cool idea.
Cool idea. Yep.
Um, and I think I'm with you. I don't think at the end, the payoff wasn't super great. And it just kind of felt like after a certain point in the movie, it just kind of felt like every other movie of like with serial killers and stuff. So it just kind of became meh toward the end. But I appreciated most of, and I was trying so hard to like pay attention to every little thing because it's like
Yes. Me
there might
too.
be these little like clues on what's going on, and
Yep.
I was like paying attention because I was like, there's gonna be some little subtle hint, and I'm gonna miss it, and then it never really happened, and so I
No.
just yeah, I was kind
It
of
tricks you.
waiting
Like
for it.
there's shots where you're just like, oh, they're kind of letting you see that, so I better look at that and pay attention to that, because it's going to be a clue, or in the end it's going to be a flashback and being like, hey, we showed you this before and you should have seen it. Like, I thought there was going to be a twist that was going to be a awesome twist at a certain point. I was like, no way. And I tricked myself because that wasn't even what they were going for. It was just, and I think that's fair that you point out that there's not a big twist as a spoiler free commentary, because I think people want to know that. Is this the good M. Night Shyamalan, or is this the bad M. Night Shyamalan? Like where it just doesn't hit. And honestly, it's not his best stuff. For sure. It's not his best stuff. So unless you have anything else, we could go to our stars.
Let's do it.
All right, 5-star rating. I'm going to give it a 1. And I'm harsh on that. I'm harsh. I understand. But in the end, looking back, I did not enjoy myself very much. I was like, this was upsetting. How about you?
I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
Okay.
Um,
Still holds up there.
I think for Josh's performance and just the premise alone, I think it warrants at least that much. I think it's worth seeing, just if, at the very least, if you're a fan of him.
Mhm.
Loved that Pearl Harbor back in the day or something. You would maybe enjoy this.
That's what he was
Um,
in. I was like, where do I love Josh Hartnett from? It's Pearl
yeah.
Harbor.
Um,
Yeah.
and then I mean, like I said, I still felt suspense. So like maybe you don't like scary movies. Like this might be a nice one where it might get you a little like get the blood pumping a little bit. And maybe if you're not into like the heavier stuff, this might be a better lighter film where there's still some like like things that keep you on edge a little bit. Maybe that there's something there, but um, other than that, yeah, I think that's more or less my thoughts there. So
All right, everybody. Warning. This is your warning now. We're going to be talking spoilers because after you see a movie, you just got to talk about it. There's just stuff that you just got to speak about, that you got to get off your chest after you walk out when you see a movie with somebody. So now we're going to do that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. Stick around right now if you want to hear some spoilers. Clay, I'm going to let you go first. What do we have to talk about with Trap?
so my friend had a theory. I think he read online somewhere that the theory he was running with was that the whole reason that this character was locking people in his basement and or killing them was because his daughter is a vampire, and so
Sweet.
he was stealing and or like killing these people so that he could feed his vampire daughter.
Shit, I would have watched that
Do you
fucking
think that
movie
you think
3
that would have been
times.
better? You
Yeah,
think?
fuck it. Yeah, why not? Sure. Yes.
And so that's all I could think about the whole movie. I was like, what's the alternative mode
That would have been
here?
awesome because they do hint at the relationship between her and the girls being sour, her and her like ex-friends,
Right.
like they hint at like this whole thing, this weird woman and like this weird like thing that got out of control at school that they had to have a parent teacher conference thing on. And it gets weird at that moment. It gets dark for a second and then they distract you. So yeah, sure. I could have seen seeds of that being planted, being a thing.
Yeah.
I
So
thought so I thought at the end when he's comes into the kitchen, right? I thought that the woman is gonna watch the abduction video and that she's like pissed that he got caught because they were in it
right.
together.
I thought about that too. Maybe her
That's what
being
I
in
thought
on
in
it.
the moment. I was like, oh shit, she was in on it the whole time. It was both of them taking people, and she's gonna play stupid like she doesn't know what was going on. That's what I thought.
Mm,
And then like, but it wasn't that. I'm like, that would have been a decent twist for me,
right.
but it wasn't that either. What was
Yeah.
the twist? There were like three of them,
Like
like
I mean,
four small
I
happenstances.
guess the main twist I can think of is just that the wife kind of set this whole thing up
Yeah,
inadvertently, which I appreciated because it took them a while before they mentioned that he like accidentally left a receipt
yeah,
with the ticket purchase, and I was glad they added that because it was bothering me for the longest time. Like,
yeah.
how do
How
they
did they
even
know?
freaking know that he's here?
Yeah,
And so finally they give you that information, but it took a while. I feel like they could have maybe thrown that out earlier, and then obviously then we turn around and find out that she was the one that left the receipt or whatever.
yeah.
But um, that's the what other twist are you thinking of?
I mean, at the very end, they're locking him up. They let his daughter run into his arms. Let her through, like let her hug his like he's a total he just popped some eyeballs out of like an
That's true.
FBI dude's head or whatever.
Yeah,
And then you're going to let his daughter run to him. I'm like, does he deserve that? Why did you do that?
and let him
Anyway,
pick
they
up a
let him
bike.
hug. He picks up the bike and takes a spoke and then unlocks his handcuffs. And that's like a twist right there. There were a couple small things like
Yeah.
the wife somehow in point 0.5 seconds thinks on her feet, goes into the bag that happened to be under the cupboard that she had, takes some pills, puts it in pie, and drugs him all in like point 0.5 seconds.
Unless she like did it earlier, anticipating that he was gonna be there, because like
That would have been great.
the
Yeah,
old
sure.
lady
Okay.
anticipated he was gonna be there. I think that was the whole tea thing was her sign that he was in there. So I think the old lady knew he was coming back.
Yeah, that was the thing too. I'm like, did they know? Was that a trap that they all kind
That's
of
how
knew
I
about?
understood it. But
How did he get back into the house the second time?
he's real sneaky, bro. He
Did he
sneaks
get in through
around.
the hole that they all of a sudden there was a hole? That was a twist. There
Yeah,
was a
probably
hole in the
not.
cupboard.
Probably not.
Okay.
He probably snuck in the back or something.
He also gets out of a limo somehow, out of
Invisible.
SWAT gear and into a sweatshirt in point
Stacks
0.5
the
seconds.
SWAT gear on a book to make it.
He he gets out of the car somehow without anyone noticing. Like, good fucking God, Clay. Like, these were not the best twists
Yeah. Some
going
of it was
on.
a little
The
hard
more
to
I think about it
follow.
now I want to revoke my fucking star from this movie.
0.
It wasn't that good. Josh Hartnett did a good job. He pulled a lot of fucking weight. His yeah, his mannerisms kind of
So
carried a lot of water in this
one
one.
thing I
Holy
was
shit.
really struggling with was, so in theory, if they would have pulled his character aside at the concert and
Yeah.
questioned him,
Yeah. How did
okay,
they
I
know?
guess I guess he had the tattoo. But
Yeah.
other than that, like, couldn't he have talked his way out of the rest of it?
Yeah.
Like, were they like lie detectoring these guys? I understand the
I think the
tattoo.
tattoo was the huge thing.
Okay.
And I think they had to put that in there. And somebody told M. Night, they're like, listen, you got a really big hole here. Can we do something about that? And they're like, okay, tattoo. We'll have them listen on the radio, say, hey, we know this guy possibly has a tattoo. Bada bing, bada boom. That's why he's so like hell bent on not even being stopped. I
Right.
don't know. I thought they were gonna get he was gonna get under the stage at one point. I don't know. I'm getting more upset the longer I think about it. It just okay. Let's talk about where it really ramps up. Really ramps up where the singer takes the phone and runs into the bathroom. Not from a writing standpoint, not a bad thing, because I could totally see how if you're desperate, it's like, let me just grab this phone, run away, and just like count on him not freaking out in front of his family. I'm like, this is fucking intense. And then we solve a murder, a potential murder on Instagram or whatever, live. What the fuck? What did you think about the super sleuthing via Instagram or whatever live she did
Right.
and everybody solving this case in 3 minutes? I I want to say it's
I mean, if Taylor
stuff
Swift
like
did
this
it,
happened.
eh.
Did she?
I'm saying if Taylor Swift went live and
She could do
asked
it, yeah.
people to recognize something, I'm sure there's
Yeah,
enough
it
people.
would have happened. Like
Right.
it's not even to say it's not realistic cuz quite honestly, internet sleuths, like if you pay attention to true crime or anything like that, like all these stories that are out there of unsolved murders and stuff, there are things where the internet gets a hold of it and people out there go and they do the research, they dissect it, they make calls to the cops and stuff happens. Like this is not unheard of. But it
Yeah.
was just very quick and for it to be like a crux of the movie, I thought was like I don't know. It was an intense scene, I'll give him that. I don't know what else. Okay. So he says, "Oh, I'm gonna open the garage door. We're leaving. I'm probably gonna go kill you somewhere, whatever." And then his family's right there. And he says, "I locked you guys in the bedroom. Oh, there's a tree next to the
Right.
window. And that's how they got out. And I've never seen it in that light. And this is my two worlds colliding. Some shit. Explain this to me before I fucking freak out. What was that?
It was just him saying he didn't think about the fact that they could climb out the window.
This is
And
writing. This is a movie. This is that probably made like millions of dollars to make. I mean, it was just a throwaway line. Everything about what happened in the movie was explained in the movie poorly after the fact. So like they're sitting there in the kitchen and he's confronting his wife. He's like, "Oh, so this is what happened, right?" She's like, "Yeah, and you probably did this." She's like, "Yep, that's what happened." And then we're getting all this backstory, which is interesting. I mean, it's good to fill in gaps, but like they talk about his previous murders and they show little clips and photos and like almost showing you the photo and I'm thinking we're going to get a flashback or something about his motivations or something about the brutality of what he's done, but they just say it and they just hint at it. There's a lot of hints and a lot of like explaining back things and like, oh, I don't know. It just was not good writing to me overall. Oh, any other thoughts, Clay?
I mean, I'll finish with, I think, kind of like the movie Old. I think that he comes up with these really cool premises. I don't know. It says that he's the only writer credit on it, so it claims that he's the one coming up with these ideas. So I feel like he comes up with really cool ideas that get people into the theater. It gets these movie studios to pick him up. I just feel like he has a hard time finishing it off. And
Sure.
so part of me wonders if he could benefit from having some co-writers that he
Hmm.
works with and be like, look, I have this idea. How do we make it a home run? How do we really make it all work at the end? And I don't think that we should expect every M. Night Shyamalan movie to have a big twist at the end. I don't think he needs to be cornered into that.
True.
But I do think that they've got to come up with a way to make it a satisfying ending. And I just this one was a little tougher for that. Um, I think Split did a better job with this like killer persona. Obviously, it was a split personality thing, and this is not really that. But it's just like he can do it well. I think it just depends on some other things. So yeah, I think that about
You're
covers it
right,
for me.
Clay. I owe M. Night Shyamalan an apology, and
I
I'm
don't
gonna
know
do
if
it right.
that's the case.
I'm
I
gonna
don't.
do it right here because I think I painted him into a corner. I think I've held him to a standard that's just too high. Let him promote his daughter. Let him like get us into the theater with these promises of like, hey, this flick's gonna be good, and then just kind of let us down. I mean, he's human. I apologize, M. Night. From me to you, you're not getting another star though. I was just about to say I'm gonna give it a 2 star.
Better
You
not.
don't get the star because it just wasn't good. Sorry. But I apologize for being so harsh to M. Night. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for another episode of Movie Magic Reviews. Please join us at the MegaDads Discord where we talk all day long about gaming and news and entertainment and all sorts of stuff, all sorts of nerd stuff. Check out everything else going on at MegaDads on YouTube, and we'll see you next time. We'll see you at the movies.